Anna, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me for another Z Brief, where we talk about some of the movies that people can see through the International Film Series website. And today we're going to be talking about Mayor. This is a great documentary that got a New York Times pick. It was directed by David Ossett. He worked alone in terms of he without a crew, shooting over 350 hours of footage. And boils it all down, trims it down to an 89-minute window, looking into the life of Musa Hadid, who is the Christian mayor of Ramallah. And he's in his second term in office. Now, Musa Hadid is not just a mayor. He's also a good humanitarian, acts as an ambassador for the dignity of the Palestinian people abroad. And Ramallah is of course a Palestinian city in the central West Bank, and it's located 6 miles from Jerusalem. It's inhabited by about 30,000 residents, mostly Muslim, but with a significant Christian minority. It's within sight of the city, is within sight of areas where there's been a lot of Israeli settlement activity. This documentary has won over a half dozen awards, all very well deserved. It really sets itself apart by focusing on a decent individual working within politics who's just trying to get basic services to his constituents. It shows how hard it is to deliver on basic infrastructure needs, but also drifts sometimes kind of comically toward the mundane matters involving, like, city branding or putting on a public Christmas tree celebration, or even just there's other things that are just like the complications involved with like building a cemetery, one that's badly needed, and yet gets held up for, I think they mentioned like 15 years in the process of trying to get it together. There were a whole bunch of other things that get tapped into, but I'm interested what your take on the documentary Mayor was. Anna, what do you think?
I loved it. I think it delivers a clear message without feeling forced or heavy-handed. And it's not a very one-dimensional documentary, but it creates more of a personal relationship between the subjects and the viewers. And one of the most poignant moments for me in the film was when the mayor that Hadid asked a question along the lines of, do you think Americans know what is going on here, and do they care? And this is something that I've kind of been thinking about lately, looking at the news that I'm exposed to. A lot of it is very much US based and politics in our news. And so I sometimes think it's difficult to find things outside of that. So I think this is a great way for people to be exposed to issues that our country is involved in as well. So I think it's worth the time to become a little bit more aware of things like this situation and the range that it shows.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. You just pointed out when you talk about when the mayor turns around and asks the question of whether or not Americans are giving much thought to what happens in places like Ramallah. That was a singular moment because it was one of the few times that he's addressing the director, David Ossett, directly. Otherwise, David is very much in the school of the Frederick Wiseman, kind of staying out of the way, not making it about him, and just following the subject, around. And so it's a very inobtrusive, but also a documentary that feels like, he's lived in the shoes of the people who he's there with. I thought it was also fascinating how they had, just like in any American city, they have their versions of, Starbucks and a variety, just hipster places. And it's also different because you think, oh, it's just going to be immediately, it's going to be about the tension, between the Israeli, occupations and, the Palestinians. And it really is very much more focused on just the day-to-day realities of just trying to deliver goods to the people in the city, and it has a very light touch. There are some moments where things get heated up, and there's altercations with people with guns and things like that. So there are certainly tense moments, but it starts out just kind of looking at something that's just a little bit more of a day in the life of someone who lives and is trying to make things better for other people in Ramallah. So I should also mention this one's available for just $10, and with that you also get an opportunity, like rolled into that. If you watch it from the IFS website, stick around because there's also a Q&A that's about a half hour long, and it's a Q&A with the director, David Ossett, along with Steve James, who directed Hoop Dreams. And actually, we brought Steve James out at the International Film Series a few years ago, so he'll be a recognizable face to IFS customers. And I give this a very hearty recommendation. It's definitely a great doc, deserves to be a New York Times pick, and it's well worth catching. Thank you for checking it out, Anna, and we'll talk again next week. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Ciao.